Hello again, campers. This is Program Director Nick again. I am so excited to bring you one of your first installments of Camp Chapters. This is going to be a video series of your favorite counselors and directors reading a variety of different books. So we're going to read The Secret Life of Amanda K. Woods today. This is a chapter book, so it's a little bit more of an installment here. But thank you again to Scholastic for allowing us to read these things online for you, and thank you for following along. So the first thing I want to do is kind of prepare you for The Secret Life of Amanda K. Woods a little bit. So I'm going to read the back cover. Amanda Woods is discovering that the person other people think she is and the person she really is are not the same. She doesn't want to be like her demanding mother or her perfect older sister, and even though she feels close to her father, she doesn't want to be like him either. But she has to start somewhere. So she changes her name from Bland Amanda Woods to Amanda K. Woods, someone who is proud and strong and sure of herself. And that chain sets off a chain reaction, leaving Amanda and the whole Woods family entirely different. Now, I want you to think a little bit about what could possibly change by just adding a letter and the power that that holds. So we're going to get started here, and I'm going to read the inside cover in the first 2 chapters probably, and then I'll ask you a series of questions about those chapters. And feel free to leave comments about what you think about the book or what you think about the reading. So, to my dear friend Susan Ludvigsen, finder of 4-leaf clovers who became a poet, and in memory of our teacher, Vivian Anderson. The Secret Life of Amanda K. Woods. Chapter 1, Lyle. One summer day, Amanda Woods traded her right hand for Lyle Leverage's. Years later, she would think of that day as the beginning of a new life. At the time, though, she only knew it was the end of something. It was a Monday in August. Amanda woke late. On the other side of the bed, her sister Margaret's side, the covers were flung back and Margaret was gone. Margaret, who was 17, had a summer job at North Wisconsin Hospital. The hospital was in the town of Rome, 10 miles away, so Margaret had to wake up early. Amanda got out of bed and went to the window. Outside, the branches of the oak tree were twisting in the wind. There were big, angry waves all across Lost Lake. Amanda shivered. She dressed, putting on her favorite t-shirt and jeans and her cowboy boots. Then she left the house and took the sandy path along the lake to Lyle Leverage's place to get there before it really was too late. Amanda's family and Lyle's were the only people who lived on Lost Lake. Amanda and Lyle were 11. They had been best friends for 5 years, ever since the Leverages had rented the land next door to the Woodses and put a house trailer on it. When Amanda and Lyle were little, they had played with toy cars and trucks, making roads and bridges and towns on a bare earth mound in Lyle's yard. They swam together, and after Amanda got her horse, Skipper, they rode him double bareback. Lyle's dad, who worked at the lumber yard in Rome, had built Lyle a shack out of boards so he could have a special place of his own. Little by little, Lyle had filled it with an enormous collection of comic books. On rainy days, he and Amanda read them all day long. Amanda's mother was an elegant woman who had strong opinions about what was proper. She had made a rule that Amanda couldn't buy comics or have any in her own house. Comics weren't literature, she said. However, she had never said Amanda couldn't read them someplace else. Amanda's mother had almost never went over to the Leverage's place and had never looked into Lyle's shack, so she had no idea how many comics Amanda had read. Lyle had some Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Captain Marvel comics for light reading. However, his main collection was hundreds of horror comics piled in 3 stacks on a low wooden table. These stacks reached higher than Amanda's head, and sometimes it seemed to her that there was no end to them. Lyle told Amanda he read the horror comics to make himself brave. Lyle believed only a very courageous person could read as many horror comics as they had both read. His collection features ghosts, ghouls, werewolves, zombies, vampires, and the Walking Dead. Sometimes Amanda would read Lyle's comics all afternoon, staring at exploding heads, or green blood dripping from slashed throats, or decaying zombies bursting out of graves, till she felt almost sick and a little scared. Then, as it began to get too dark to read in the shack, Lyle would hand her a Captain Marvel comic to calm down with. When she had to leave to go home for supper, Lyle would say Captain Marvel's magic word, Shazam, giving Amanda the courage to run home full speed so she never saw what might be lurking in the shadows. Pushed by the wind, Amanda climbed up the hill from the lake to Lyle's place, where everything was changed. The Leverages' lawn chairs were gone, and so was their rusty barbecue grill. Lyle's shack was gone too. Lyle's dad had taken it down and sold the boards. Now, under the pine tree that had sheltered it, only its hard-packed dirt floor remained. The Leverages' house trailer had been moved onto the driveway, their aluminum boat upside down on top of it. Lyle and his dad were up on top of the trailer, fastening the ropes to hold the boat. The Leverages were moving away, going to Montana. When Lyle had told Amanda that they were leaving, she had felt terrible. She'd said, "We'll be friends when we grow up anyhow." But Lyle had answered, "We'll live far apart and never even know each other." Amanda realized he was probably right. It seemed as if everybody but her was always right. She had looked at their hands, which were the same size and exactly the same shade of tan. "Our hands are the same," she said. "We could change hands. You take one of mine and I'll take one of yours." On top of one of the horror comic book stacks, Lyle put his right hand over hers. It covered it exactly. "We could change hands and no one would know the difference," Lyle said. "But it would be bloody, too bloody." Amanda had been disappointed, but glad that at least he hadn't said it was a stupid idea, or that he didn't want her hand anyway. She ran up to the trailer, and Lyle saw her. "We're almost ready," Lyle shouted into the wind. He looked excited. "I got to keep my comics," he added. "My dad fitted them into the boat." Lyle's mother came out of the trailer. "What a cold day for leaving," she said. The wind blew her light brown hair, the same color as Lyle's and Amanda's, into her eyes, and she brushed it back. Lyle's dad helped Lyle down from the roof of the trailer. Lyle's parents both hugged Amanda. "I hope you like Montana," Amanda said. "You be good," Mr. Leverage said. "We'll miss you." Lyle looked at Amanda and moved his head slightly in the direction of where the shack had been. Together they walked over there and stood in the middle of the floor. "It was nice," Amanda said. "Yep," Lyle said. Lyle took her right hand. He pressed the fingers of his right hand against her fingers, the back of his hand against her palm. "Shazam," he said. He pulled his hand away from hers and shook it 3 times. Amanda copied him and shook hers 3 times as well. A funny tingling sensation went up to her elbow. Lyle was a person who could do almost anything. Amanda thought he might have actually done magic. The Leverage's car hiccuped and then made a stronger sound, more like a tiger's roar. The horn made a tiny beep. "Lyle, time to roll," Mr. Leverage called. The trailer was closed up. Lyle's parents were in the car. "I won't say it," Lyle told Amanda. Amanda wanted to ask him what he wouldn't say, but she couldn't. He was already running for the car. Maybe what he meant was that he wouldn't say the word goodbye, and Amanda didn't say it either. Lyle jumped in the back seat of the car. He rolled his window all the way down and stuck his head out. His eyes met Amanda's, and he smiled as if they shared some secret about life that nobody else knew, that would be just theirs forever. The car with the trailer and boat behind it, bumped slowly down the driveway. Lyle waved his right hand. Or was it Amanda's? Amanda's right hand. Or was it Lyle's? Waved back. Chapter 2. Average. Amanda's mother, holding the garden hose, checked the soil in a flower box under the kitchen window. Her face was deep in pink and white petunias. "Amanda," she said, "would you turn the water on?" Amanda opened the faucet. Not much, just a little, so that the water would soak into the soil slowly. "That's just right," her mother said. Amanda felt good. Her mother was very particular, and Amanda hardly ever got anything just right for her. She and her mother watched the water flow among the petunias. "At least these are sheltered from the wind," her mother said. "The flowers that face the lake are a mess." "Did you say goodbye to the Leverages?" "Yes," Amanda said. "That was nice of you," her mother said. Amanda felt uncomfortable, as if she was being praised for something she shouldn't be praised for. "I didn't do it to be nice," she said. "I did it because I wanted to." "Well, I said goodbye to Mrs. Leverage out on the road yesterday, so it didn't make any sense to go do it again today," Amanda's mother said. "I'm sure you'll miss Lyle," she added, "but it's for the best." Amanda hunched her shoulders. Her new right hand, which had been vibrating with unknown powers, began to go numb. Why was it that when her mother wanted her to feel better, she so often made Amanda feel worse, especially when she said something was for the best? But Amanda knew what her mother meant. Her mother had often said that Lost Lake needed a better class of people. She always hoped that the best families from Rome would buy land and build homes on Lost Lake. Where pine trees massed against the far shore, her mother could imagine the lights of a little village forming, a village of people like the Woodses, who would build nice houses and plant petunias and appreciate beauty, not people like the Leverages, who lived in trailers and built shacks. When Amanda thought of how her mother felt about the Leverages, it made her feel very sad. Her mother saw the sadness in her face. "Straighten your shoulders and don't mope, Amanda," her mother said. "Moping is so unattractive." Amanda didn't want to be unattractive. Sometimes she was afraid she was. She opened her eyes wide and lifted the corners of her lips in her "I'm not moping" expression. Woodses were successful people who didn't mope. If you wanted to be a Woods, you had better not do it. "That's better," her mother said. She studied Amanda for a moment. "You need to keep yourself occupied," she said. "Make us some blueberry muffins." Amanda turned the water off, coiled the hose, and followed her mother into the house. Her mother paused at the door of her office. Papers were heaped up on the desk inside. Her mother was in the middle of paying bills. Amanda's father owned the Rome Hotel and managed it himself. Her mother helped by keeping all the hotel's accounts. "I have an awful lot to catch up on right now," she said. "Do you think that you can make muffins by yourself?" "I guess so," Amanda said. She went into the kitchen. The clouds outside made its white cupboards and white walls look gray. She started the steps of making muffins, but it was hard. The weather, she thought, was sticking everything together. The cookbook didn't want to open, the oven didn't want to light, the oil and eggs didn't want to be beaten, the milk and then the flour didn't want to mix in. Amanda set her spoon down. Where was Lyle, she wondered? A long way down the road for sure. Maybe this far from him, his hand wasn't even any good. But she made a fist and got the feeling of power back into it, and that worked. Then she pretended she was her hero, the Lone Ranger, the handsome masked man on TV who galloped across the Wild West, bringing happiness and justice wherever he went. The Lone Ranger who, in order to bring peace to the world and defeat evil, had to make blueberry muffins. For something so important, it could be done. Sunlight flew in the window. The blueberries tumbled into the batter swam into the muffin tin, and the tin slid into the oven without a drop spilled. It was only when the muffins were baking that Amanda remembered she hadn't greased the tin. Amanda stuck her head in the door of her mother's office. Her mother, punching numbers on her adding machine, looked up. "I forgot to grease the tin," Amanda said. "So what should I do?" "Good heavenly gracious," her mother said. "There's nothing you can do. How could you forget, Amanda?" "I don't know, I just did," Amanda said. "You need to pay attention to what you're doing," her mother said. "You can't always be dreaming." "I'm not always dreaming," Amanda protested. Her mother pressed the add button on the gray steel machine, which was whirring and grinding, and printed out a total. It seemed to be calculating the exact sum of Amanda. "You are," her mother said, "practically always dreaming." "I am not," Amanda said. Amanda knew she wasn't always dreaming. When she was little, it was true. She had spent a lot of her time pulling on her elbow, but no one could call that dreaming. She'd done it for a reason. Her father had told her that if she could kiss her elbow, she would actually turn into a boy. So of course she tried. But no matter how she hauled on her elbow, it never got close enough to her mouth to kiss. And she remained a girl. She still did spend some time in her head pretending to be the Lone Ranger, or at least a boy, but pretending was not dreaming. "The muffins look okay," Amanda added, trying to sound practical. "I checked and they're rising. They smell wonderful." "Yes, but when you take them out of the tin, they are going to stick and come out crumbs." "They could still be good to eat anyway," Amanda said stubbornly. "Yes, if you don't care how things look, if you think we'd really want to have a plate of crumbs with dinner." Amanda tried to think of an attractive way to serve crumbs, maybe with milk and more blueberries on top. But there weren't any more blueberries, just crumbs and milk. "You need to care about appearances, Amanda. Appearances are, well, I wouldn't say they are what matters most in life, but they are very important. How food looks is almost as important as how it tastes. The best thing you can do with those muffins is give them to Skipper," Amanda's horse. Amanda took the muffins from the oven and set the tin on top of the stove to cool. They still smelled wonderful. They looked beautiful. If she just put them on the table in the tin, everybody would see how good they looked. And they could remember that while they ate the crumbs, if appearances weren't good, couldn't people just close their eyes and taste? If appearances were so important, God would not have given people eyelids. Amanda thought of telling her mother this. Instead, she took a knife and, with her lucky Lyle Leverage right hand, carefully loosened one muffin from the tin. It didn't come out in crumbs. It came out in 11 pieces. There were actually few actual crumbs. The trouble was, what to other people was a piece of something, to Amanda's mother was a crumb. Amanda gently picked up the muffin pieces and set them on a plate. By the time she had them on the plate, there were 14 not-so-large muffin pieces. Amanda ate one. It was good. Lyle, she was sure, would have liked the muffin. Lyle would have eaten it and said it was delicious. Maybe even his parents would have eaten it. On the other hand, maybe not. Probably not. Amanda suddenly felt as if she were getting a cold or a fever or some deadly disease. This was how she usually felt when she had failed her mother. The only thing was, she probably wouldn't get sick. She was too healthy, that was the trouble. If she actually did get sick, she knew her mother would be very concerned about her, bring her meals in bed, and touch Amanda's forehead with a cool hand. This had happened a few times. Amanda hung on to the kitchen cabinets, thinking she might be dizzy, wishing the fever would really come, so her mother would have reason to forget her faults. She wished she could sink down onto the floor, gracefully, a fainting victim. However, her Lyle Leverage right hand wouldn't let go of the cabinet. Neither would her not-so-special, but practical left hand. Hitting the floor would hurt, and that was why. Amanda sighed. She took the knife and picked all the muffins out of the tin. There were quite a few pieces, so many she didn't want to count them. She put them on the plate and then carried them outside, whistling for Skipper. By the time she got to the pasture fence, Skipper was already there, pressing his chest against it. His caramel-colored brown head held high and his ears pricked up, Skipper-like treats. She put muffin pieces in the palm of her lisle leverage hand and held them up under Skipper's velvety nose. With 2 sweeps of his soft lips across Amanda's palm, he got them all. Then he reached out to the plate in her left hand and finished the rest. "They were really good, weren't they?" Amanda said. Skipper nodded, arching the whole length of his beautiful neck. She rubbed the white star on his forehead and hugged him. People are too picky, Amanda thought. She wondered how life would be if she had been born a horse. Better, probably. When she went back inside, she could hear her mother on the phone. She started cleaning up in the kitchen, half listening to her mother's phone voice, smooth and confident, like a river that always knew where it was going. Amanda heard Margaret's name. Putting the muffin tin away, she went to eavesdrop, standing outside the office door. 17. She's outstanding, her mother was saying proudly. She'll be applying to some very good colleges this fall. There was a pause. Then her mother added, Amanda is my other daughter, 11. She's average, but she's very sweet. Amanda didn't want to hear anymore. She walked rapidly down the hall to the room she shared with Margaret. She stared at her bookshelf, which was almost empty, and at Margaret's, which was crammed full, and at the bulletin board of newspaper clippings about Margaret's successes. There were photos of Margaret with the class officers being junior class vice president, the highest office a girl could win, since everybody knew a boy had to be president. Margaret at the state debate tournament with a trophy in her arms. Margaret wearing her nurse's aide uniform and a surgical mask, working at North Wisconsin Hospital. Margaret in the junior prom court in a long dress, and many, many more. Amanda passed Margaret's fancy dressing table with the mirror above it, trying not to look at herself. She threw herself down on her and Margaret's bed and clutched her new, lucky right hand with her old left hand. Her new right hand felt dead. Amanda's head throbbed with something sort of like a headache, but not exactly, and she rubbed it into her pillow as deep as it would go. Then she cried because she couldn't help being average. She had just lost her best friend in the world. So that was chapter 2. Next time we will read chapters 3 and 4. But I want to leave you with some questions, and you can look at those. I will put them in the description of the video, and you can answer them in the comments if you so please. Have you ever had a best friend like Amanda has Lyle? Does it ever feel like they have moved away, whether they actually move away or it just feels like they are distant? How could Amanda keep in touch with Lyle? Maybe this is a time before cell phones, but could they write letters? Or are there other ways? And for chapter 2, how does it feel when you do something right and someone tells you good job? Do you have a hero like Amanda has the Lone Ranger? And are appearances important to you? And if so, why? Why are those appearances important? If you have any questions that you would like answered, feel free to ask the questions in the comments as well. And I would love to share some of our answers with you. There are no right or wrong answers. This is just something to think about. And so we'll be continuing this book, and hopefully we'll get all the way through it. I want to thank you for tuning in. And again, thank you to Scholastic for letting us read these books online. So I hope that you have a wonderful week. I cannot wait to see you on Friday for Campfire again. And until then, stay safe, stay awesome.